Good afternoon. Welcome to Inside Indiana Sports, now with Kent Sterling. It's Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. We're brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, just the best at what he does. Give him a call, 317-849-2933. 28 years ago, I called that number. I'm still going to Dr. Mike O'Neill and only Dr. Mike O'Neill. Call him, 317-849-2933. Again, punch subscribe, hit like, ring the bell. Let's go. Let's talk about sports. The Indianapolis Colts back to work today, but before they worked out indoors at Grand Park, we found out that Chris Ballard and Frank Reich are both getting extensions that run through 2026. Jim Irsay in the press release lauded both for the great work that they've done, and I'm sorry. While I don't want to run either of these guys out of town, not at all. I like the job that both have done. But let's see some fruits of their labor before they're rewarded for their labor, right? I mean, do we reward guys just based upon the promise of good things and the possibility of championships and playoff appearances, or do we reward that behavior? Now, 2 out of the last 3 years, the Colts have gone to the playoffs, and so both of those years, Frank Reich. 1 year, Frank Reich didn't make the playoffs. Chris Ballard has been around for 4 full seasons, and Chris Ballard, including the postseason, is 33-34. That's a losing record. And while I have nothing but respect for Chris Ballard and the way he's put together this team, I love the character of the team. You go into the locker room, you can feel it. It's palpable. I dig it. They have not been able to solve the quarterback problem. All right, year 1 with Frank Reich, it was Andrew Luck. Then year 2, Jacoby Brissett. Year 3, Phillip Rivers. Year 4 is going to be Carson Wentz. That's a lot of guys. You need a long-term solution at quarterback if you are going to contend for a championship. And if Carson Wentz isn't the guy, I don't know where you get that guy. It's not Jacob Eason, and I don't think it's Sam Ehlinger. In the draft, the Colts are always going to be good enough not to draft in the top 10. Trade-wise, you've given up a conditional first-rounder for next year already. Where are you going to find the draft equity necessary to be able to trade up and get your next franchise-level quarterback? I just don't see it, so you better hope that Carson Wentz is the guy. And if he's not, you might have to say, if you're Jim Irsay, boy, oh boy, a change is necessary here. But now you've signed both of these guys through 2026, and frankly, again, I just don't get it. And again, Frank Reich, you know what? Frank Reich's pretty good. 29-22, despite the fact that in 3 seasons, and that includes the postseason, in those 3 seasons, he's had 3 different starting quarterbacks. All right, so that's not, you're kind of playing from behind already. You're playing euchre with, a couple of queens, a couple of 10s, and a 9. Good luck winning those hands, right? I think Frank Reich has done a nice job of maximizing first Andrew, then Jacoby, and then Phillip, and I think he's got a good chance to get the same thing done with Carson Wentz, but he hasn't done it yet. And you're writing checks to these guys and promising checks to these guys based upon work not yet accomplished. And I just don't understand that level of compensation or that level of investment in 2 guys that have not gotten it done yet. Jim Irsay likes to talk about multiple Super Bowl championships. And while it's rational to believe that maybe Chris Ballard and Frank Reich are capable of putting those kinds of teams on the field for the Colts to reward them as though they already have, I just don't understand. You look at Chris Ballard's drafts, some of them great. The 2018 draft, my goodness, that's a big draft. Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, Braden Smith. You got a lot of guys in the 2018 draft that can flat play. However, you've also drafted quarterbacks like you were drawing names out of a hat. In the 2nd round in 2017, Quincy Wilson. Quincy Wilson is no longer an NFL player. 2 years ago, Rock Ya-Sin as a quarterback early in the 2nd round. Rock Ya-Sin has not paid off yet. So you really have to question Chris Ballard and his staff's ability to go out and fill at one of the most important positions on the field based upon his past performance. Do you believe that he's going to be able to get it right the next time he spends either a 1st or 2nd rounder on a defensive back? All right, 1st rounder, Malik Hooker. All right, some people are going to be critical of Malik Hooker as a first-round pick, 15th overall in 2017. It's not going to be me, because you can't foretell injuries the likes of which he suffered. Malik Hooker, early in his rookie year, before he tore his knee apart, right, on just that bad luck hit, on his, like, as he dove, he got hit in the knee and the whole thing shattered. That's tough to come back from. Prior to that, he looked like he was worthy of the 15th overall pick, so I'm not being critical there. But Chris Ballard has gone out on a limb, a skinny limb, a couple of times in the draft, and it hasn't paid off. Sometimes it has. A 6th overall pick in 2018, it did big time, as the Colts traded down from 3 to 6 and took Quentin Nelson. And you know what? Like, Nelson's going to get his, right? He's going to get an extension. Braden Smith has already gotten an extension. Darius Leonard's gotten an extension. And so in that draft, the success of that draft was in drafting at positions that other teams do not value as highly as the Colts. All right, quarterbacks win you championships. Edge rushers win you championships, right? Wide receivers can win you championships. And really, you need an amalgam of all three of those positions, and you need a reasonable defensive backfield in order to propel you into championship consideration and put you in a place where you're going to be talked about as a potential championship team. The Colts have not done that. In that draft in 2018, they got a left guard. Left guards back in the days of Bill Polian, they churned through those guys quite a bit. How about linebacker? We saw Cato June come through here, Mike Peterson. We saw Marcus Washington. We saw an endless parade of chase down linebackers who were drafted and then cycled through before they got expensive, because you can't carry gigantic expenses at every position with the salary cap the way it's constructed as a hard cap. So Polian prioritized at different positions and spent his money and his draft equity at different positions. You need three guys in order, you need triplets, right, in order to make an offense go. Where are the triplets for the Indianapolis Colts? You don't know if they have a quarterback. You do have a running back in Jonathan Taylor that I think you should feel really good about, and that was a hell of a pick by Chris Ballard in the 2020 draft. That, he earned his money with the Jonathan Taylor pick. However, where's that wide receiver? Is that Michael Pittman? Maybe. But Michael Pittman is going to have to step up this year and be a part of a triplet that allows the Colts to kind of put talent on the field in places where they can create points. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got to go create turnovers. So that's where kind of Darius Leonard comes into play, and why the draft of Kwity Paye and Dayo Odangbo, those come into play. You got to hope that those guys pay off, that Dayo can come in after he's done with his rehab and play meaningful snaps this year in order to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. You got to hope that Kamoko Toure comes out and does the same thing. Ben Banigou, right? Tyquan Lewis. You got to hope that those guys do. By the way, Kwity Paye went down today with an ankle at today's practice. So what do you think of that? Usually those things are 2 to 4 weeks. Looked like a grade 2 sprain. I know about ankles. Anybody who's been around basketball for a long time knows about ankles and can kind of judge based upon the favor the player gives that ankle as they leave the field or the court. You can say, all right, 2 to 4 weeks, more than 4 weeks, less than 2 weeks. This looked like 2 to 4 weeks. So that's what you got with Kwity Paye, and you hope he gets back on the field quick because he was making strides. Anyway, Colts tomorrow, joint practice with and against the Carolina Panthers. You don't want to say against the Panthers. You want to have a feeling that you're working with a team instead of necessarily against a team. On Sunday, those two teams play against each other, not with each other, at least you hope, right? So tomorrow, Grand Park, hopefully the weather is conducive to doing it outside, and the public is welcome out at Grand Park to come out and watch those two teams kind of do battle and measure themselves against each other. And this is where it's going to get interesting for Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger. Eason working some with the ones, some with the twos. Ehlinger some with the ones and the twos. who's going to be the guy over the next 2 days who looks the best in practice against a whole new team. And then among those guys, and it looks like Eason's going to play first for over a quarter, then Ellinger's going to come in. Which of those guys in the first preseason game is going to look best? I got no hate for Jacob Eason. People who say I hate Jacob Eason, they're just flat wrong. Why would I hate Jacob Eason? He's a Colt. He just hadn't played very well in practice. And that's the fact. All right? He is slow in his progressions and his delivery of the football, despite the fact that he has a laser rocket arm. Ellinger does not have that quality in arm, but he's got a processor up here that's lightning fast. So you kind of get to see one guy who is very, very adept at delivering the football, and you have another guy who's very, very adept up here at figuring out where he wants to deliver the football and when. Kind of like a Phillip Rivers, but with a stronger arm and not quite the same processor as Phillip Rivers. At least not close to it, at least not yet. So you got that. The Pacers in Vegas, a loss yesterday to the Atlanta Hawks on a broken play three-pointer at the end of the game that carried the Hawks to the win. It doesn't really matter. It's all about Chris Duarte, Isaiah Jackson, and Cassius Stanley. How those guys looked looked really good. Duarte, 21-7. Isaiah Jackson, a double-double with 13 and 12. And Cassius Stanley, 14 points yesterday. Part of the news I got from Scott Agnes yesterday at Fieldhouse Files about Myles Turner. So this is what he said, according to Scott Agnes, on social media. Got mad depressed, started eating bad and drinking too, and got up to 276 pounds. He's down now to 255 pounds thanks to Chef V. Whoever Chef V is. This is completely unacceptable to me. I don't want to hear it. Like, you're being paid $17.5 million with another $500,000 in incentives. You've got a team that didn't go to the playoffs last year. You finished the season on the shelf. Your team went 34-38, and your coach got fired for the second straight year. And you get mad, depressed, and start eating bad and drinking too? What the hell are you doing? For God's sake, do you know, and God bless Myles Turner, but I never made $17.5 million a year. I've never made $1 million a year. I've never made $500,000 a year. And here's a guy who is making 17.5 and can't find a way to eat well and not drink a lot. That is completely unacceptable in terms of off-season culture and character, and that's got to change. That's what's wrong with this team. You got guys who are not willing to make the sacrifices necessary to be able to beat championship contending teams. There are some guys who in life, they can knock them back, and they can eat crap, and they can play at a high level, but that is not Myles Turner. Myles Turner has got to find a way to compete at a high level through diligence and discipline. And if he doesn't have that, he has no chance to play at an all-star level in the NBA, and probably doesn't anyway. But if I'm Myles Turner, I am committed 365 days a year to earning my $17.5 million, because if not for earning that money in the NBA, I don't know where the hell it's going to come from. What would I be doing? If I was Myles Turner, what would I be doing if not playing basketball to earn $17.5 million in a year? What would if it was me doing this, doing a podcast, and I'm making $17.5 million? Am I going to walk up here with a sixer and down them? I don't do it now. And I don't making a living doing this is really, really difficult. It's absolutely absurd. Myles Turner's got to grow the hell up, be an adult, be committed to what this team needs him to be, and then do it on a daily basis. And then go to war this fall and this winter and next spring and get it done for the city of Indianapolis, the Simon family, and Pacers Sports and Entertainment. And if he's not willing to do it, deal his ass. Tomorrow morning, Breakfast with Ken. I cannot wait to talk to you then. It's what we do. Bright and early, baby, both here and anywhere that you're listening to this. YouTube, Facebook, watching, whatever, listening, iTunes. Let's go. Let's talk about sports. Let's win championships.